Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the second part of this interview with Dr. Ekaterina Matveeva, who's the creator of the language alter ego theory and the founder of Amolingua and Lingoplus. In the first part of this interview, you have the link up there, we talked about how individuals develop new personalities while acquiring foreign languages and cultures. In the second part that you're watching now, Kate presented her model to apply as a language learner and teacher, which is made of 14 blocks or 14 dimensions. We explain what they are in the podcast. And those blocks, those dimensions, include connecting with one's emotions across languages, because different cultures and languages have different ways of experimenting and talking about emotions. And make sure you stick around until the end of the interview to know how you can win one of her books, one of the MERAKI books. You just need to share and comment to increase your chances. So wait until the end and then enter the contest to get one of the books. Let's dive in. Hello, bonjour, bienvenue. Welcome to Crossroads, La Croisée des Chemins, a show where guests from various backgrounds and ethnicities share with us stories and insights about their identity, language struggles, and moving abroad. Listen to inspiring life journeys of personal and professional growth. Find out how my guests have taken their fate into their own hands and how they're contributing to making the world a better place. I'm your host, Kathy Intro, a certified professional neuro-language coach and teacher trainer who believes that language learning is a process of personal development and that speaking multiple languages is worth the mess it brings in our lives. This podcast is my contribution to making lesser heard voices more visible. So please subscribe, share, leave comments, and anything you can think of to boost the visibility even more. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and other platforms. So let's get started. Bonne écoute. Yeah, I find that some people who get to C1, C2 and still struggle with the language and I cannot express my personality, and it's because they haven't done that work and that reflection of who am I, who do I want to be in that language.
And Cassie, it's even deeper. I agree with you on that. Why I'm saying deeper, because if a person, um, say, looks at a language like a subject like math, computer science, something very cold, right? Um,
Transactional and
yeah, like logical. This I've seen such people a lot among students and also among friends. Um, they completely cut a path towards feeling in that language. And for me, it's so much not even like thinking about language, because we can even talk about whether a thought has a language, right? Because eventually a thought can be anything, but then we can start speaking to ourselves in certain language. um, so when the person cuts that path of like feeling in that language, they will never connect to that language and culture, because you need to go deep into emotions, and then you need to be able to define those emotions. Look around, Kathy, how many people, even in their native language, are unable to say, they're just incapable of saying, naming their emotions. They
you're
just say,
taking
I feel
talking
bad,
to a French
I feel good.
person, where and especially in the west of France, where I'm from,
Yeah.
emotions don't exist, or we don't talk about it. We don't know how to name it. No, it's in French.
Excusez-moi, émotion, émotion, qu'est-ce que...
Pas content,
Yeah,
angry emotions, maybe a little bit more,
yes,
but yeah.
but literally just feeling bad and feeling good, right? Maybe angry. But then, if a person can't name all these emotions in their native language, when they go to multiple languages, they literally step into this multi-dimensional world of emotions, where emotions not only are not the same, they're different, they're different shades, they're different tones. And for instance, like some time ago we had a conversation with David Matsumoto here as cross-cultural psychologist, and I was saying, look, we have Pluchnik, like Pluchnik's wheel. And Pluchnik's wheel, like they're different wheels of emotions, but like, yeah, Pluchnik is like one of the classes, right? And this wheel is translated across languages without any changes. They even don't localize it. You can't do it this way, because if you look across cultures or languages, you will notice that maybe the core emotions will be the same. Yeah, as you say, like, the core emotions are the same, but then we have all the different rounds, like inner circle, outer circle, and so on, periphery. They are different, like in the way how people feel, how they attribute certain traits to these emotions. And yeah, when you learn a language, you must pass through this. You must learn to name these emotions. Then you will be able to connect to the culture, to connect to the context, how people relate to you, how they communicate, what they try and also to express, and then express yourself.
Okay, so localization is adapting certain content to the culture of the region of the people you're talking to.
Yes.
So, according to you, we need to localize our emotions and learn to connect the emotions we know we're familiar with in our the context we were born in or that we're familiar with to the new context. We must learn to make connections between them. Um, how can we do that?
Exactly. It sounds complicated. We must localize. No, it's much simpler, I would say. There is an amazing linguist, Anna Wiesbicka. She's an elderly lady, but she's still, thriving. She's Polish, immigrated to Australia, and decades ago, she wrote a few books. One of them is called Emotions Across Languages, and according to her, we have different emotional scripts across languages and cultures. What these emotional scripts implying that the way how we react, the way how we process emotions, how we express them differs from context to context. And what we need to do, we need to learn the scripts when we come to a new culture. How to do that? That's what you were saying, like localizing. First of all, of course, connecting with your emotions in your native language or native languages if you're bilingual, and then again observe, see what's happening, whether people are more open in their emotions or they are more closed up. Like for instance, I've learned Chinese, I lived in China, I frequently like work and talk with people, yeah, from Asia, like in different regions, but like China, Japan. And I know that if I am too blunt, or if I'm too expressive, they won't take it well, because it may be just overwhelming. Therefore, I always try to tone it down. But I'm not saying that, okay, if you are learning this language and culture, you must. In fact, both parties must like learn to readjust,
It's
especially if you're in work,
intercultural communications. That's what
Absolutely.
we're
It's
doing. Everybody has to go meet the other one somewhere.
Absolutely, it's a two-way road. So if you're working in an international company, if you're in a cross-cultural, like international relationship, like back in time when I was doing one of my masters, so I was actually observing. So first I was writing on international groups, and then I started working on couples. Like all this, French and Italian, or like, Spanish and Polish, British and that. And all of them told me the problem was about emotions. Often they would lack vocabulary to express their emotions. They would lack vocabulary to name what they are feeling. And that was a big problem. And then, of course, are certain, I would say, semiotics, right? Certain symbols, signs, cues, yeah, the way that they were like implying something. They thought that it was, clear, but eventually, like for the other person from it was completely, unclear, and so on. So it brought a lot of frustration. Therefore, what do you need to do? Yeah, so you need, while learning language, yeah, you need to learn to readjust, obviously, and tune into those differences and emotions, but also similarities. Because, if we're going and saying, yeah, we're so different, so it will bring us trouble. So, like years ago, I had a chance to meet and have like audience, like rendezvous, avec Mathieu Ricard, so like the French scientist, Tibetan monk, with whom we had this friendly debate, where he was saying we're all the same because yeah, we have our core emotions that are same, yeah, like similar, yeah, across all the cultures, and I was saying we are different. And we came to the conclusion that indeed we are born the same, like uh, like inside, but all the sociocultural context that's happening around us, like our family, school, university, work, etc., brings layers and layers of differences. And our task is to remember that it's a cool, we're the same, but also that we are different. And when we think that we are the same, always remember about the differences. And when we think that we are too different, always remember about our similarities.
Hmm. Yeah, I find it connects a little bit with the neurolinguistic programming, NLP. The map is not the real world. Like your vision of the world is only your vision, your interpretation,
Absolutely.
and you add your own prism to see that, but also your cultural influences and prisms. So that's a lot of ways we see the world differently, and we need to be able to communicate across those differences, um, and
That's
find a way to communicate to understand each other.
absolutely. And what you're saying, you're actually bringing a very complicated topic, that you're saying like there's personal prism and there's cultural prism. For decades, psychologists can't agree on cross-cultural psychology, all this, studies and parameters, because what they find is that it's like every study shows that it's very difficult to run, certain like generalization saying, okay, this is a way. No, it's so different because yeah, we have a lot of individuals and then we have culture, like we have this all the cultural traits, but then we have individual traits, and everything impacts us. So we may have, let's say, high context culture, right? And then suddenly there will be a wild caught citizen who will be completely low context culture,
Yeah.
and so on. So it is very complex. And then going back, yeah, to this psychology, what you were saying, yeah, about prism, um, I feel indeed, we also need to look into, like, on social level, something more complex, very interesting. It's like cultural and national traumas. That it was when I
Mm.
was saying about historic, narrative, that we need to know and feel the impact of past events. That's very peculiar because all this national trauma. So as we say, like we have our subconscious, yeah, unconscious. So like Carl Jung, we have this collective
Mm.
subconscious, right? So mind, and what happens there in that collective or collective unconscious? What happened there? That we have all these archetypes and traumas and symbols and signs, that we can tune in, right? We can tune into them and say, oh yeah, this is like because of that and that. Collectively, in particular culture, like this humanity is like the whole, but also like a particular culture. So what it means, maybe in your country where you grew up, you had one collective unconscious, but then when you're going to another one, you're tapping into completely uncharted territory. Maybe, like somewhere you have all the stories about violence at home. Maybe, men being assertive and all, aggressive. And then you'll go into another culture where like it's just egalitarian, right?
Mm.
Because they were like fine, but then there is some other traumas coming up. And so navigate that, because this eventually also shapes us on the physiological like level, biological level, because then we tap into hormones and all. It's like so fascinating, so complex. This is actually one of the reasons why such studies, when we talk about languages and emotions, get complicated, because with emotions we have certain hormones produced, and it means if we want to run the studies about these different emotions across languages, right, we then need to monitor how hormones are switching.
Yeah, that's deep, and that's a lot of different fields involved in a
Oh,
study. That's
absolutely.
a lot of coordination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, but I love it. I want, I want to learn more on that, and I want as well to see whether on physiological level, we change as, like, let's say, as a level of certain hormones,
Mm.
where they changes when we go from country to country, like especially like speaking in that language. Because I feel it potentially yes, especially if you have a certain association with that language and culture, like, or your personality is maybe happier, there for some reason. Because don't forget that we also have different memories, and those different memories shape us, and these memories can come in different languages. I don't know about you. Like, have you, like, do you have memories in different languages, or like, how is it for you?
I don't know about memories. It's a mess in my head. And I even remember the other. I rarely remember my dreams, but the other day I woke up and was like, "Huh, I spoke Japanese. I said that in Japanese during my dream." And I know my stress level is lower in Canada than in France, and lower than
Nice.
when I'm in Japan. I think Japan is the highest, also
Yeah.
because you feel like you have to watch yourself all the time and
Oh.
be a little more like don't take so much space. And
Oh
in
yeah, yeah, that's
France, a
true.
little also
Yeah.
feeling observed. Canada is very freeing for me.
Good. Very good.
Spanish context also very relaxed. So
Yeah. Uh, it's all coming, context, yes, people around, but like memories. This is also for our listeners. Um, Observe yourself, check your memories. Because if you're multilingual, see whether you have your memories in different languages. Because that what happens to me. I have memories recorded in different languages, and this creates a certain challenge. Because if I want to share a story that, let's say, happened in Portuguese, but I want to share it in English, I would have like certain words would slip out of my mouth in Portuguese just because I remember it this way and was like, oh yeah, I actually need to completely translate it all in English. Or the same about certain emotional reactions. Observe yourself, what happens, because there are studies saying that when something unexpected happens, they were actually talking about this, like even about spies. Very interesting. That if something unexpected happens, people tend to pronounce, let's say, cursing, right? Like, or surprised, oh, in their native language or in the language they are most confident in. But I didn't know when I was studying, myself, I didn't know about this first. I was always like immersing myself deep so that if I am in Italian, I will be exclaiming anything like in Italian. Like if I'm French, I would be like, oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so like, all that. And I think it's important to observe because if you get angry and it's easier for you to switch to another language, then probably you need to practice more being angry in the language that you're speaking now from which you want to switch, because it means that you are still disconnected from your anger in that language.
yeah, and I read that your brain records your memory in the language it happened. So when you were a
Yes.
kid, everything got encoded in your native language, and you can use that in therapy. Either you want to access those memories, being in the emotions, and then you're gonna do the therapy in your native language. But if you want to take some distance with it and be in a safer place, then you might want to re-examine those memories in a foreign language. That gives you a bit of distance and safety.
Very good point. Indeed, there are studies like this that they confirm that your, let's say, third, fourth, and so on languages with this distance, because you're not that connected, let's say, to those emotions. I would say more. If you can have multilingual therapy, do it.
Mm.
I've been doing it, and it helps a lot because indeed you can work with therapists of the language that you or languages that you grew up in to, as you say, like to access these memories. But then throughout your life, especially this life is divided, different languages. So many events happen that traumatize you. In order to get into the core of these traumas, you need to speak to your therapist and the language of the trauma. So you need to be able to talk about it, because if you put distance, yeah, but then you won't get through it, like the core. Therefore, if you speak three languages, have three therapists, not at once, one by one.
Yeah, you can go in
Um,
steps, like different stages of the process of healing and addressing that trauma.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it does wonders, really, because suddenly you just connect all of these parts of yourself. going back here to personalities, like I feel like we have the core that has no language, no culture, just self, whatever you call it. And then you have all these different facets, right? Like Carl Jung calls them personas, but it's not like masks in a bad way. It's just like social mechanism. It's okay, psychological mechanism. So you have all these different masks, different personas, personalities. You have, like, say, if you feel monolingual, you will say, but I have different personalities when I'm at home, when I'm at work, and all. True, when you start speaking new languages, you start getting at least one new personality, and potentially you will get even more personalities in that language. It's okay. So you need to work with all of this, and this requires time, self observation, being in touch with yourself, and like becoming self aware. So, emotional intelligence.
Learn languages. It's cool. Sounds
Yeah.
overwhelming, but it is a process that goes deep, and Duolingo is not gonna help you with that. That's what people don't realize when they get into the language learning process. It's just the surface, but quite quickly it goes deeper, and then you're wondering, why can't I progress? Why am I not making progress faster? Why can't I do this or that? You need to
You
approach it
know,
in a different way.
yeah, I'm also like thinking right now about the strange language learning. I feel that first of all, don't overthink it, and also instead of saying learning, switch to like language living, because eventually what you're doing, you're assessing a completely new way of life for yourself.
Hmm.
So I feel that there, if you look at it, that yeah, you need to pick up some vocabulary, a few like constructions, but eventually it's all about your well-being, that you want to share. Maybe you want to share your interests, right? You want to connect certain people, you want to understand better, your spouse, your friends. And then if you look at it from this perspective, developing your linguistic intuition, it will be much easier.
Yeah. So there's hope to be happy in the language.
Oh yeah, like my like in like that the series of books. So like I have now like 10 books. Um and they're the one like in Spanish, I literally call it como aprender idiomas en rápido. I don't remember, but yeah, como aprender idiomas es ser feliz, o como enseñar idiomas es ser feliz. It's exactly about that. How to manage your mental health, how to get there. And like be multilingual and be multicultural, because eventually, yeah, you navigate in this complex multidimensional world, which I also think beautiful, because suddenly your horizons expand so
Yeah,
much
it's
because
so
you have
rich.
multiple.
Yeah,
Yes, a beautiful. Yes,
right. So
go for
let's
it.
wrap it up. And where can we find you? What are you doing at the moment? What are you working on?
Absolutely. So you can find me. See my name in the title, my Greek name, Ekaterina, that stems from um, catharsis. So look for my name, Ekaterina Matveeva. Look for language alter ego. When you get language alter ego, you will see my TED talk. You will also see my books, my Instagram, uh, Twitter, X, and then of course your website. So
And
first of
the
all, the
links will
books.
be below the video,
Yeah,
so easy to
absolutely.
find.
Yeah, we'll have, yeah, exactly. Perfect. Thank you. So, in terms of books, so I've published a big series. It's called MERAKI. MERAKI in Greek means to do something with love, with soul, with pleasure. And currently, the series has 10 books, and it will have more, because years ago, um, it came to me that I would write books in all the languages I speak. So, potentially, I will write like 9, but as I'm writing two, one for students, like one for learners and one for teachers, so it's like 18, but we will see. So currently we have 10 in English, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Russian. You're more than welcome to share, comment, or on this video, yeah, on social media, because then we'll send you instructions to receive one of the gifts, so one of the books from the series. I'm really proud of the series, because I've been writing them for a long time. And then, of course, we're developing further, like with Amalingua, my company of language learning cultures. We are embarking on an international journey, especially in Texas, so also in Central Asia, Europe, like stay tuned if you're interested in like cultural intelligence. There's, and then with Lingo Plus, we are also rolling out new programs for teachers, because Lingo Plus is professional development for teachers working in multilingual, multicultural classrooms. So feel free to check it out, because there we have different courses, materials, lesson plans, not only for English and English, but also for other languages and cultures. So yeah, and I'm with my research at Lastly Institute, working hard to figure out all the details about language alter ego, and can't wait to share with you more at conferences and papers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to hearing more about it and reading the books. Thank you so much for
Wonderful.
being with us today. It was a really interesting talk, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it as well.
One more thing before you go. Have you subscribed to the podcast? Do it now to be notified when a new episode comes out. They're published once a month. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter to not miss anything. The link is in the show notes. And remember to leave a review on your favorite platform if you like the podcast and would like to support it. Remember also to share it with as many people as you can. It really means a lot to me and to my guests. So thank you very much for anything you can do for us. Ciao, ciao.